Now loading.
My name is Ali Shahed, and I'm checking into creator waves.
All right. Well, I wanted to just say thanks to Mahmood because he's the reason why we're connected right now. Like
Yes,
we
thanks,
met.
Mahmoud.
I met him when we was doing our masters during like 2018-19 period. So yeah, thanks to him, he connected us. He even what I said to him was, "Do you know anybody that is in the car racing industry that works in that space?" Then he said, "Yeah, I have this. There's someone I know. I can connect
Okay.
you." It took a while, but eventually it
Yeah.
happened. So
Yeah, thanks, Mahmoud. Thank
now
you,
we're
Mahmoud.
here.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Exactly, exactly.
um. Yeah. So yes. Get into what your role at Pirelli entailed. What did it?
Yeah, so I work at Pirelli, Middle East. Our office works on the region as a whole, so Middle East, Africa, and India. So I get to work with different markets, different customers, different end users. It's interesting. And I also work a little bit on the motorsport side. Obviously, Pirelli naturally is involved in motorsport because of our HQ, our head office's strategies. Everyone knows that we're a title partner for many races in F1. We're a global supplier for all the tires in F1. So luckily, I've been able to work in a lot of motorsport in the region. And yeah, so that's my job at Pirelli. More
Yeah.
retail, but I'm really involved in the motorsport side as well.
Yeah. It's just interesting from a marketing point of view, like as far as how cars are marketed in different ways to like different audiences and
Yeah,
in different environments. Like you have cars that are built for performance race for like racing, competitive racing, but then they end up transcending into the lifestyle side where people aspire to have those cars in their everyday lives when
true.
they've seen them in a competitive space, you know?
Yeah, yeah, it's crazy. And I mean, working for in the tire business as well, we have to create and produce the tires to satisfy those needs. So obviously we have tires that you can use on the track and then drive home without having to change your tires. So like you said, it just translates into tires as well. It's very interesting.
Yeah, like what I guess what experiences have you had with that side of things with marketing different types of cars or like how do you market tires
Okay,
or
interesting.
do you just
So
or do you just market the car with the tires already part of the story or can you market tires on its own and
yeah,
show
for
how
sure,
it adds to the car
for sure,
experience or
for sure. So obviously, a big part of the company strategy is equipping the cars from the factory. So as you know, maybe you know, but 100% of McLarens are on Pirelli. So McLarens only come with Pirelli. So it kind of leads the end user to always go for Pirelli when he needs to change his tire or her tire. Whereas with other brands, we need to put a bigger effort to persuade them into shifting to Pirelli. Like for example, like an AMG GTR. It comes equipped 100 with Michelin tires. So what we do is we do a lot of we take a lot of effort to obviously how do I say convert these customers into our customers rather than our competitors' customers. But yeah, for sure, we take an active effort to market our tires based on their needs, based on the end user's needs. So
yeah
obviously we have different product lines that cater to different needs. So we have the P0 family, which is the same family that goes into Formula One. So the P0 in F1 is called the hard, the soft, the medium. On road, it's called the P0, the P0 Corsa, the P0 Trofeo R. So we obviously take a lot of effort into talking about these things.
hmm
However, we have tires for like SUVs, like the G class. is equipped. The Mercedes G-Class is equipped with a tire called Scorpion Zero. So for each family of tires, we have our own strategy, obviously, and we have
Okay.
actually in our HQ we have different teams for each different product, obviously because it comes from
Okay.
R&D from
So
factory. Yeah.
okay. So you can recognize. Can you recognize a tire? Can you easily like recognize tires, like the
Yeah.
style of it, the
Yeah,
function
I
of
have a
it?
disease. I have a disease. I look at the tire before I look at the car. So
Wow.
so
See?
yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
That's
So
interesting.
whenever I'm in traffic, I'm looking to my left, like we drive on the left in the UAE, not the right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm looking at the left. I'm always looking at the tires, and then I look at the car. I mean,
Wow. You
obviously
know
I know what
what's
car it is.
Yeah. Do you know what's so crazy? Is like the everyday person is looking at
Yeah,
looking at the car as a whole, but like a car specialist is looking at certain components
yeah,
that an
exactly,
everyday person would
exactly,
just like blow off, like they wouldn't
exactly.
really
I
pay
mean,
too much attention to.
to many people, tires are. I mean, it's true. Tires just a pain in the ass. You know what I mean? Okay,
Yeah.
maybe you shouldn't use maybe you should cut that out if someone.
It's true though.
But
It's true.
it
It's
is,
true.
yeah. But no, like changing your tires is nothing unless you're doing it for leisure, for track. Changing your tires is never a nice thing to do. So people
Yeah.
really disregard it and they automatically disassociate it from their minds. But
Yeah.
for us, we know how important the tire is. I mean, at the end of the day, it's the only point of contact between the ground and the car. So
That is true.
you need to have the right tire always. And I get really, it hurts me when I see like a really, for example, under our office building, there's a Ferrari F430 with an unbranded tire. I'm not gonna specify what country that tire comes from, but
Yeah.
I think it's obvious. And it kills me, like knowing how powerful that car is, how technically advanced. No matter how old the car is, it's a work of art, and it's using tires that are literally unbranded. It's
Yeah.
a brand that doesn't exist. It's just it was made that week in the production line in a factory
Yeah.
somewhere. You know?
Going back to Pirelli, like being a kid, right? The first
Yeah.
time I recognized the logo was when I saw Ronaldo play for
Yeah.
Inter Milan. It was the UEFA Cup final, right?
Okay.
That they won, and he was just playing like an alien. Like
Yeah.
he was doing like flip flaps, step overs. Then he had that one goal where he was 1-on-1 with the keeper. He did like the
Okay.
little shimmy. He went around the keeper, scored. He did a celebration, and then yeah, that's when I started really recognizing the
The logo.
Pirelli logo because they sponsored Inter Milan. So it's crazy
Yeah.
how it can just translate, because then there's like a tree. It's like it goes back to the tires, even
Yeah.
though it goes back to that when you really do research into it. You see it on a football shirt from a player that you gravitate towards. You do research on who the sponsor is. You find out that they're a tire manufacturer. Then there's so many different aspects that transcend what the primary purpose of is.
Yeah. Yeah. I
That's
completely
really
agree.
crazy. So like, I
Yeah.
wanted us to talk about just the different aspects around car racing, um, the performance side of things, like how the different factors that really transcend what happens on the track during the performance. So like how car racing has like influenced fashion, car racing in video games. Like I remember growing up playing like Gran Turismo,
Okay.
and you get to select what vehicle you want and you see the name of the vehicle. You start learning more about the different types of cars, the different styles of cars. And it starts on the track. Starts on the track. you're watching car racing, but then it translates and transcends that and goes into different areas. So like what
Okay.
I'm just interested to know what you think about the different areas that car racing transcends into.
Okay. Let me work it the other way. Let me speak to you about racing culture in the UAE.
Okay.
Okay, and then like as I
Okay.
go, like we can start like branching out
We
into the
can
topics that you
dip in
mentioned.
and out. Yeah. We can dip
Yeah.
in and out.
Okay, so I haven't officially entered any race in the UAE, car racing.
Okay.
I've done a lot of karting races. I've done
Okay.
12-hour endurance. I've done 24-hour endurance. I've done sprint races in karting, but I still haven't officially raced. However, I do have a racing license. I just haven't had the chance to race yet for financial reasons mainly.
Mm-hmm.
But it's in the pipeline to start racing.
Mm-hmm.
Racing culture in the UAE is beautiful. It's not like Europe because there aren't that many teams and the availability of cars, tires, parts is not as common as Europe. So the community is very close here. Everyone knows everyone very well. People help each other so much. I mean, I know people. Okay, drifting is not racing, but it's motorsports. It's a competitive motorsport activity. I know people who are in drifting who recently, actually in a championship, one of the people I know had a problem in his car, and his competitor's team helped him fix his car
To save his life. Or
to save his car for the next stint.
oh, okay,
So
okay.
so
Was his
so you
life
know
at risk in that moment, or was it,
no no no
or he
it
wasn't
was
at
it
risk?
was it
Okay.
was not life. It was just there. Okay, so it was a drift competition, and they're going together, and then they hit each other. And then
Oh, okay.
after the stint, he had a problem. I forgot. I think in his rear axle housing, or something like that. And his competitor, the person he was competing with for the title that day, came and helped him, and the whole team, his mechanics came and helped him after to fix the car to get it ready for the next stint. So racing culture in the UAE is really interesting. It's like a family. It's very competitive, obviously,
Oh, okay.
but
Yeah.
it's really like a family because what I think is a lot of people came together to make it happen, and it's like I said, it's our first track opened here in 2004. So at the
Oh,
Dubai
okay.
Autodrome. Yeah, you know, back in Europe, tracks have been there for over 40 years. So the culture exists. So it's very easy for people to adapt into the culture, easy to an extent. Here, the culture had
Right.
to be built through the community. So the community here is really amazing, and being part of it is something I'm really proud of. Uh, I don't know if this answers any of your questions, but I
That's
don't
fine.
think race.
It did pretty much did,
Yeah,
but
but I don't think racing here in the UAE has reached the level of influence on fashion, for example.
okay.
However, in Europe it has. You know, like I mean, I'm wearing a Formula One T-shirt. It's merchandise.
Yeah.
It's fashion.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We don't have
Yeah.
anything local, but obviously, you know, like
Yeah.
Formula One is next level.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
racing culture here is amazing. In terms of competition, the competition is mainly between teams and drivers rather than brands. I don't think I
Okay.
don't think I don't think that big brands put in enough effort to create a competition. So I mean, there's a specific tire brand that comes in and sponsors a championship every year. One year they pulled out. Very simply, another brand came in. There wasn't like a real fight for the championship. It's more passive. It's more based on the availability of the parts. You know what I mean?
Okay.
I don't. So here, racing is great. The culture is great, but I feel like it still has a long way to go. But the
Okay.
community here is always working really hard to make it better. There's a lot of people who invest in the community. There's a lot of people who invest their time in making things happen here, whether it's on track, off track. There's really a growing community, and that's what I think is the future of motorsport in the region. It's the people rather than
Okay.
the brands. Obviously, some of the
Right.
brands
That makes
are yeah, some of the
yeah.
brands are obviously capitalizing on what's happening and supporting. I mean, for example, I know that Audi have been putting an effort into how do I say supporting motorsport. bringing their cars out, displaying them in like very popular places, trying to sell a little bit of their cars. Renault have been putting an effort into launching the Clio Cup, which is live, by the way. And like recently, I received an email because I was part of a database that was interested. So I received an email asking me if I'm willing to buy a race car. I mean, brands are putting more effort, but I will always say that the community is responsible for how the culture is right now. I know some specific people that I don't want to mention names in case they don't want their names to be out there, but I know this one person who has been. If anyone in Dubai hears this, they'll know who I'm talking about. He used to be a chief instructor at the racing school at Dubai Autodrome. He was also the president of Porsche Club for so many years. Porsche Club UAE, the official Porsche Club. This person really brought so much to the community. He worked really hard to grow the community. He would join races whenever there were. He would contribute with his club. I mean, we're talking about karting. We're talking about circuit racing. The community is amazing, really. And I'm proud to be within it.
Really?
We haven't mentioned this. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, as far as the community, what makes it so great? Is it because everybody shares experiences with each other, everyone educates each other on things, or what makes it so great?
What makes it so great is that there's a common interest of growing motorsport in the UAE and racing. So naturally, people work together to make it happen. There are people who organize private time attack events at the Dubai Autodrome. It's a group of guys who do it. There are people who organize like a rally course in the desert privately, and they put in their own effort, and they bring in their own film crew. They bring in their own timing equipment. They set up the track themselves, and then they invite a few people and they do it together. I mean, it's the common interest and the teamwork, honestly, that goes in place to make these things happen.
Yeah.
And we haven't mentioned this on the podcast yet, but I'm also as a racing instructor at Yas Marina circuit. Marvin, you know about this, but yeah. So I'm a racing instructor at the driving school there. I'm a GT instructor, so I instruct on GT cars. So we're talking about like road cars mainly, and GT4 racing cars. And the instructors there as well are obviously within the automotive community and the motorsport community. And the same thing that I said applies to what we do at work over there. We all work together to make sure that when an end user comes to do a driving experience, he's not just coming in to drive a car and go home. We try to make them faster. We try to make them better. We try to make them come back for more to try a different experience. I mean, it's such a positive environment here in the UAE. Motorsport is such a positive environment. I think it has a lot is coming towards us.
Yeah. What as far as the racing school?
Yeah.
What is the demographic? What age range of people?
Okay.
Go to it.
We meet the beauty of that thing I do on the side, instructing, is that I get to meet people from all over the world and people from different ages and different genders. There's no fixed demographic. That's the beauty of it. Sometimes we have ex-racing drivers coming to drive. Sometimes we have mothers with their children watching them coming to drive. Sometimes we have people who just graduated out of a karting academy. I mean, obviously with the regulations, having their own license, all the details. We have different types of people doing different types of experiences. That's the beauty of it. We don't have a specific audience that comes and does the same thing and goes. So that's really one of the things I enjoy the most, is that I get to speak to and I get to learn from so many different cultures, age groups, genders, nationalities. I mean, it's beautiful.
Yeah. So what's the main mission of the racing school?
Oh, okay. I can't get into that too much.
Oh, you can't. Okay. Well, like,
yeah. I mean, I can, because it's a purely marketing thing of Yas Marina circuit.
Right. Okay. So
it's
like,
not my place to discuss.
Okay. How can I say this then? So when people go to the racing school, right?
Yeah.
What are some of the reasonings behind
Okay. Yeah.
them coming?
I used to go do experience. Okay. So I'll speak to you as a person who's done experiences as a customer before, because I do experiences at the Dubai Autodrome. I used to do experiences the whole time at Yas Marina circuit before I became an instructor there. So for me, the first time was to seek adrenaline. This was more than 4 years ago, 4 years and a half. I still remember my first time. It was actually my first time ever on a track was around 8-9 years ago. But that was a catastrophe. I was just going around throwing a car and having no idea what I was doing.
What car was it?
It was very strange. It was a Cayenne. It was a Porsche Cayenne.
Okay.
So it wasn't even a tracker. It was a Porsche Cayenne GTS. It was my friend's car a very long time ago. And obviously I had an understanding of how it works. I was just throwing the car around. It was, looking back at the video, I found like a half-a-minute video of what I was doing, and it was really a joke. Anyway, that was quite a while ago. That was a track day. So when I started doing experiences, let's say 5 years ago, my first experience, I had an instructor next to me. What I cared about the most when I was done was my video. So I was like,
how your experience looked.
I mean,
you can watch back. You watch your back.
Yeah, but not for performance reasons. I was so proud of it. You know what I mean? I drove on an F1 track where Sebastian Vettel, Lewis Hamilton, Fernando Alonso, Kimi Räikkönen could drive. You know, I needed that content. So
yeah.
The second time I went was okay. It was really fun. Let's go do the adrenaline again. And then I started going more and more, and it was to beat my time. It was to beat my time. They don't share the time with us, so every time I watch my video, I'm always like timing myself. So that's how it was back then.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I started doing it to get better. Then I started doing my racing license. So then it became a performance thing. It became a growth thing. But for many people who come, I'll tell you what they say. Many end users that come, they go like, I was on this side of the world, and there's a chance for me to drive on a racetrack, an F1 track. Of course, I'm gonna want to go and do it. You know what I mean? How can I miss this? You know, when I was actually an end user at one point, there was a guy who drove all the way from Qatar just to drive it, just to try it. He didn't want to fly. He wanted to do a road trip. He drove all the way from Qatar just to drive at the F1 track and come back and go back to Qatar. It's like a 5-hour drive, 4 to 6 hour drive. So you have all different types of people who want to mark something off their bucket list. You want people who just want to share the same track as an F1 driver. People who want to beat their own time. It's usually the residents that want to like get better because you know they live in the country. Yeah. But whenever there's a tourist, it's usually like mark something off the bucket list, drive where an F1 driver drove. But look, there's so much more. Yeah, there's so much more to it that I obviously can't speak in detail about.
Yeah, of course.
But it's really a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
And I'm sure any of my instructor colleagues would say the same. You know, at the end of an experience, when you get out of the car, and although we've done it 100 of times, we come out with a huge smile on our face, especially when the customer is like really happy or proud of what they've done.
Yeah,
it's always great. I'm actually instructing today. I'm leaving in half an hour, so Abu Dhabi.
Yeah.
Yeah. As soon as we're done, I'm putting my pants on, and taking my helmet, and leaving.
Yeah. Where do you think? What do you see car racing's? What would I say? I'll say how do you see car racing's place within pop culture?
Okay. Globally?
Yeah.
Or regionally?
Wherever, really.
Okay. So let's agree on one thing that the mass awareness that comes from racing is through F1.
Right.
I mean, we can agree on that, right? So someone who's never been into racing can only relate to racing through F1. I think it comes from the drivers.
What about NASCAR?
I mean, NASCAR has such a stigma around it that it's
Yeah,
just people
true.
driving around in circles, but it has a
True.
lot more
Yeah.
to it. You know what I mean? I think people are very well aware that F1 is the
Yeah,
pinnacle of
F1
racing.
is the one. Yeah, F1 is the
I
one.
mean, once you
Sure.
start getting more involved, you know about Le Mans, you know about the 24 hours of Dubai, you know about the
Yeah.
12 hours of Spa. Like once you get more into it, but for mass awareness, I think F1 is the driver, and
Yeah.
especially because of what they've done with Netflix and what they're doing with their digital
Yeah.
channels.
I was watching
Like
a documentary like last week actually, like a F1 documentary on Netflix.
Drive to Survive.
I think that's what it's called. But they were
Yeah, so
just talking about like it was basically looking into the experience of the races and the
yeah, and like
competition,
off track, on track, all that. Yeah,
off track and all of that. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
Drive to Survive, it was actually it had a huge impact on Formula One. Some of the races have been sold out for the first time in years, and the company that owns F1 Liberty Media believes that the Netflix show had a huge impact on that. Anyway, so I want to go back to that. I think that the drivers and their personalities have had the biggest effect on culture in general. So, for example, like sometimes Lewis Hamilton walks into the paddock wearing the most ridiculous clothes. You know what I mean? But like
Yeah,
it
it's different.
depends.
It's like it sparks a conversation.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
there's a new driver in Alfa Romeo. I don't know his first name, but his last name is Zhou. It's spelled Zhou. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. There was an interview with him. I think it was on Netflix or Instagram. I don't remember. And one of the first things he mentioned is how important fashion is to him, and the fashion that he wants to bring to the paddock. And he mentioned Lewis Hamilton. He said that the only driver that does the same is Lewis Hamilton. And these
Yeah,
drivers have an impact on pop culture. Like
yeah,
that's what builds a bridge between racing and pop culture, in my opinion.
yeah, yeah.
You know.
That's
And
true.
for example, like brands launching their own like racing teams launching their own clothing lines or collaborating. For example, like Mercedes have a collaboration with Tommy Hilfiger, the clothing brand.
Mm.
If you walk into a Tommy Hilfiger store in Dubai, they have the most flashy neon I don't know what
Race
it's called,
jackets.
like race jackets, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. and
yeah,
and
yeah,
it's so cool, but
yeah,
and this comes from racing, so
yeah. Exactly. So it's like people that aren't racers, they still want to feel like they're part of the racing
exactly,
experience. So
exactly,
having a
exactly,
race jacket will make them they can take a piece of the car racing world and bring it into their world and it makes them feel
exactly.
like yeah, so
So
yes,
so this is
yeah,
a Pirelli
exactly.
podium cap. So whenever I'm wearing this in public, the
Yeah,
chances of one person approaching me and asking me how I have it is super high.
yeah,
You know,
exactly.
it's just the cap that they wear on the podium. You know,
Exactly.
so. And by
Exactly.
the way, I'll just tell you something. I was in Kuwait a couple of days ago, and I think I'm not gonna speak details, but a Kuwaiti family owns a large share of Aston Martin.
Okay.
And the amount of people that I saw in the country, I was there for 2 days. I've seen over 15 people, 10 to 15 people wearing Aston Martin racing t-shirts.
T-shirts,
And
yeah.
I've been to Kuwait before. Never saw any of that. And I was there for longer in the past. I was only there for 2 days this time. So for sure, racing has been impacting the world in many ways, you know.
Yeah.
And now you have all these restaurants in Dubai and all these pubs and bars advertising, come watch the F1 race on Sundays from.
Oh, in our restaurant or in our
Yeah,
bar
yeah,
and
yeah.
yeah. See, that's the thing as well. It brings people together as well, watching
Yes,
the racing
yes,
as well. So it's
yeah,
there's so many different aspects of it that people can tap it allows people to tap into it.
exactly.
People might watch F1 just because okay, um they have loads of friends going to a bar to watch it. I may not watch it, but let me go because we can just have a chat and maybe I'll get into understanding how it works through just going to the bar and watching it
Exactly,
with those guys. Yeah.
exactly. I think I think since me and you spoke about this topic, like that we're gonna get on a podcast and get this done, things
Yeah.
have changed so much in racing, in the racing culture, in just a short
Yeah.
time. In just a short time, it's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, like
Uh,
the internet must have a big impact, right? It
yeah,
must have.
yeah.
Yeah.
No,
I'm
it's insane. What's happening here is insane. Like seeing how many people relate to it. The other day I was at the gym and I was
yeah.
wearing this T-shirt actually, and on the back of the T-shirt it says Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. So I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I was at the gym the other day, and these two guys behind me, they're really young. So I'm 26. Yeah. These guys must have been 12 or 13.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, he works in Formula One. And then I don't. And then I heard them, and then I'm like, I
Yeah.
don't. And then as I was still working out, they're very close to me, and they were talking about racing,
Yeah.
and they were saying things that were facts. It was amazing. It was so nice seeing such young children talk about like
Yeah.
Formula One, not in a way that's very superficial.
Like a novice, not in a novice way, but they know
Yeah,
the
yeah,
insight. They have insight and
they were
all of
talking
that.
about tire strategies. I'm like, what?
Wow.
Yeah, they were talking about like, oh, did you see what happened in 2016 in Monaco? And
Yeah.
I mean, for sure they must have watched something, or
Yeah.
maybe they
On
read. I
YouTube,
don't know.
maybe.
Yeah, but it's
Or
beautiful.
documentary.
It became a norm. You know,
Yeah.
in the past, racing was such a niche,
Yeah.
reserved for only motorheads and automotive lovers. Now it's not that anymore. I think it's
Yeah.
beautiful.
But how do you think fans can get more connected to the behind the scenes aspect of the racing experience?
Interesting.
Do you think that's is that possible, or is it a thing where that side of things is kept kind of private?
No, no. Formula One is the next level. Obviously, you know, like to enter the Yas Marina circuit during F1, you go through multiple security checks, so
Mm-hmm.
points. So it's not something that you can easily like get into.
Mm-hmm.
However, if there's a local race in Dubai, in the Dubai Autodrome or the Yas Marina circuit, you can walk in and walk around, have a look at the garages, have a look at the tire compound. It's not that difficult. You can get
Mm-hmm.
involved if you want to. And I think now in the new season starting, that's such an interesting point that I think a lot of people can work on, involving the public in the behind the scenes rather
Yeah.
than just the social media content or what happens
Yeah.
after the race. Yeah, I think that's a really nice
Yeah.
point.
Because I think
It's
if people
accessible.
can exactly, I think if people can get more insight into the technical aspects of the sport, I think like those kids that you just named
Yeah,
and get to that kind of level, it will definitely like grow. It can grow the sport in a more organic way as
yeah,
well because you're
exactly,
understanding
exactly,
how the sport works. So when you're
exactly.
watching it, you can pay attention to certain things that you probably wouldn't do if you weren't if you didn't understand how things operate on a technical level or
You're right.
just
You're
on
right.
the back
Yeah, you know, it
the
helps them
back end
relate.
of things, you
Yeah,
know.
it helps them relate to things. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. You're 100% right.
Yeah. Like are there any like debate shows for like racing
What do you mean?
or like shows, for example, like I watch a show Undisputed and I watch First Take, right? And
Okay.
they mainly cover like the NBA and the NFL,
Ah, okay.
but they do like in-depth debates
Okay.
on the sport, and during that process they're giving you insights into how the sport works, so you're learning about the sport whilst you're watching them carry out debates. So it's a good way to like learn about the sport more.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, as far as I'm aware, there's nothing. Obviously, football is the leader when it comes to in-depth analysis and content on TV.
Mm-hmm.
It's football here in the UAE. But
Okay, yeah.
In Saudi Arabia, there's a channel called used to be called NBC Action. Now it's called Saudi Sports Channel, which is this channel that streams F1. So that's the channel that
Okay.
plays F1 locally, and they have two Arab commentators, Khalil Bashir and Firas Nimri. So who during the race weekend are constantly talking about insights and data and history, and they talk about the history of the country where the race is happening, not just the
Yeah.
race, However, I'm not aware of any specific debate show that which is interesting, which is very interesting.
Yeah. Maybe that should be something that comes about.
Yeah, you're right. You're
But
100% right.
I think kids would eat it up as well.
Yeah,
I think they would
for sure,
like go crazy over it. Like
for sure.
pit stops.
Mm.
Because I think that aspect of racing is like kind of not, I'm not gonna say it's not appreciated enough, but
Yeah,
I think there's so much you can take from a pit stop, and it can be applied to like life in general.
yeah,
Like pit
yeah.
stops, like racers coming into a pit stop, connecting with their wider teams, making adjustments, then going back onto the track. And, and I think that aspect should be, I don't know how, but it should be more engagement for the viewer in some
Okay,
way. Like even when during the pit stop, maybe you can learn about what tools the team is using to, more technical aspects of it, where you can
okay.
maybe see it on the screen whilst you're watching it. I don't know if they do that already.
The I mean, pit stops are usually very quick.
They are quick. They
So
are quick. They are quick.
they just you're
But
always under a few seconds. So I
yeah,
think on TV
true.
there's not much they can do other than talk about it or show the time it took. However,
Yeah.
uh, as Pirelli, we in our events we always have a pit stop challenge car.
Oh,
So
okay.
it's
Yeah.
an F1 show car. We have the guns, the red not guns obviously. You know what I mean, like
Yeah.
the tools,
Yeah. Yeah.
and we have the tires and we have the scoreboard, and we always make a competition at our events so to engage the
Oh, okay.
customers, the end users. So we always put two people on a tire and the scoreboard, team A, team B, and and then we have someone there explaining the importance of the pit stop and how they messed up, what they could have done
Yeah.
better, and we have like specialists who do that actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, pit stops. That's one effort we take. That it's obviously nothing near what you're talking about. Pit stops can be discussed in more depth. You're 100% right.
Yeah. 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 They could
Yeah,
be. I'm
pit stops.
just
Yeah,
visualizing. Yeah, I'm just visualizing like a driver goes into the pit stop, then on the screen pops up certain information about key things going on
yeah,
during that
yeah.
process, Then they go back to the track, then obviously they're back on the track. But as they come in, it could be like, I don't know, maybe like just key words of key things that are being carried out,
You
you
know
know?
where that could be done better? Because okay, in F1, pit stops are super quick, but in endurance racing,
Yeah.
so where you
And
have a
what's
driver
racing?
change, endurance racing. So like
Oh,
let's
okay.
say like a 24
Yeah.
hour race where you have a driver change.
Oh,
You go
yeah.
in, car gets lifted, they're
Yeah.
changing the tires,
Yeah.
cleaning the windshield, the driver's changing, you're buckling him up or her up. That's I think that's where there's space to really like provide more content. However, there's less viewers, so it's just like
Yeah. It's true.
it's I don't know how to explain it, but it just I think I explained this already.
There's less like eyes
Yeah,
on that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Where you have more resources, there's less eyes, so it's just it's a bad situation.
Yeah.
But yeah, pit stops are an art. They can make or break the race. It's
Yeah.
and the decision whether to do a pit stop or not, I think, is not really explained well on F1. I mean, it sometimes the commentators say it, but you miss it. You're right. Maybe there should be some data on
There should be
why the
some analysis
yeah,
involved
I agree. I agree.
where you can understand, because as you said, they decide when and if to do the pit stop. They don't have to do it, right?
I mean,
Or they have to do it.
sometimes you have to abide to a specific strategy, a minimum of pit stops in some races,
Okay.
depending on the strategies. And sometimes the pit is open, sometimes the pit is closed. But I know this because of the amount of research I've made. You know,
Yeah.
For someone who's just getting into it, it's difficult to track.
Yeah.
And also, like for example, if I'm watching a race and I don't know, I go to the bathroom, or I get on my phone for a minute and come back, and then I see someone pitting, a driver pitting, and in my head I'm like, what happened? Why is he pitting?
Yeah. Why
You know,
is this happening?
yeah,
So
yeah, you never
maybe in that moment there should be a segment
a
where they
graphic, yeah,
explain why it's happening. Maybe on the screen there's
yeah,
like a
exactly,
box that appears, then it has an explanation. Okay, this is why the pit stop is happening. So
exactly,
that people
exactly.
can, yeah. So, and it almost creates it's like a story. Almost, it's like people are more engaged in the race now. Okay, so this is why this is happening. It's
Yeah,
not just cars. It's not just cars going round and round. There's actually, it's given context.
yeah, and it gives the end users something to talk about and compare to the next race. For example, like
Exactly.
this
Yeah, and
race he
then
did
that
this, or the next race the last race he did that, and then that's a whole topic that they can talk
right,
about.
and
You know?
then that leads to conversations online too, because people
Exactly,
they'll start tweeting about it,
exactly.
or within, I don't know, yeah, they'll tweet about it, or they may on Reddit. It may spark conversations on Reddit, because I know Reddit has a lot. There's a lot of conversations that happen about F1 and
Okay,
racing and stuff. So
okay,
yeah,
interesting.
I think that I would like to see that myself, just so I
Likewise.
can get more insight. So that would
Yeah,
be interesting.
and also, for example, like it took me quite a long time. I frankly still get confused on what tires you can start with based on the tires you're using in qualifying. So the rule changed this year. I'm not exactly sure what it is. I should know. I'm not gonna lie. But there used to be a rule where if you exit Q2, you need to use something like that. I'm not 100% sure. You need to use the tires that you were using in Q2 to start your race on a Sunday. You know, so
Oh,
it was all these things that like they were always there. There were rules that were implemented, but now the fan base is completely different. Now you have like mass watching. You don't have only enthusiasts. You know, you have
yeah,
the mass audience there, and I think they need to be informed as well. You know, they need to get more
definitely,
clarity. One
definitely.
decision that Formula One took was I don't know. Okay, I don't know how long you've been watching Formula One, but like
Well,
4 years.
I've watched it like on and off since I was a kid, but it
Yeah,
hasn't
same,
been like consistent.
same,
Yeah, it hasn't been consistent. Like I remember,
same.
like I got into it mainly because of Schumacher, like
Yeah, yeah,
how he was dominating. Yeah, I just started
yeah.
watching it from then, but it's been on and off. But yeah,
Yeah, but like okay, let's say like 5 years ago, they're in F1. When for the end user, you only see three tire types. I mean, three dry types. You have the red, the yellow, and the white. So the soft, the medium, and the hard. And then you have the wet tires, which are the blue and the intermediate, which is the green, and the blue, which is the full wet. All right. In the past, you had, other than the wet, you had the hyper soft, you had the super soft, you have the ultra soft, you had the medium, you had the hard, you had the super hard. So you had so many. There were so many types of tires and colors. So Formula One took an effort to simplify that and make it only three different colors for the end users. And then within each color, Pirelli has their own compounds. So I mean C1, C2, C3, and more or less. You know what I mean? And so
yeah,
on. Sorry, no, more or less.
yeah, yeah.
So yeah, so they have been taking efforts to simplify things a little bit. I mean, let's see how
It
much
will
more they
grow.
can do.
I think it will. It will keep developing for sure.
Yeah, yeah,
And that
exactly.
Netflix documentary was really good. It
Yeah,
gave you
yeah,
an
yeah.
insight into like um the heads of, I don't even know the names, but the heads of the
Team
different
principals.
car teams.
Yeah. So like Gunther Steiner, the principal
What's
of
the name?
Haas,
What's the name of that position?
team
So you
principal.
know the person that's the head of Mercedes, or
Team principal.
what would they, what was that?
Team principal.
That's the one, exactly.
Yeah.
So in that documentary, it showed the different personality
Yeah.
types of the team principals.
Yeah.
Some were
Exactly.
more. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what his name is with Red Bull, I think. I'm not sure what his
Christian
name
Horner.
is, but he was really competitive. Like
Christian
I like
Horner,
to see
yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, he gave his insight into like what he felt about the other, some of the other principles and how. Yeah, it was just good to. It felt like getting insight. How we're able to get insight from like football managers. That's
Yeah.
how it felt like in that documentary for that.
Exactly.
So that was good. Yeah.
And it makes you connect with the sport a lot more, really.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, when you're
So
racing,
that was good.
you can think of what goes on in the background a little bit. It
Exactly.
engages
In
you
your
a lot
mind
more.
now, you're thinking, okay, behind the scenes, what is happening?
Yeah,
What's
exactly.
the
He's gonna get
reaction?
mad. Exactly.
Yeah. Exactly.
And it sparks conversation at the end of the day.
Exactly.
Oh, amazing.
All right.
What a
I
sport.
think this is.
Yeah.
I think we've covered everything
Cool.
in a swift time.